requests versus demands. So again, I just want to invite you to consider what comes up for you immediately when you think of what is a request versus what is a demand. In the last video, the last key distinction, we did needs versus requests. And in that one, I would say, well, I have a need for comfort. Would you be willing to get me a pillow? Right? So that was a need paired with a request. Now, how do I know that was actually a request and not a demand? Right? I said, would you be willing to get me a pillow? What would make that a request versus demand? Well, what happens if they don't get me the pillow? Right? What happens? Am I okay with that? Was that okay that they didn't give me the pillow? I asked if they were willing to. What if their answer is no? Right? Is that okay? Or am I going to be upset? Why didn't you get me the pillow? How could you say no to me? Really? You're not even going to do that? See if I ever do anything for you. Right? So notice, can you accept a no? Or are you going to seek to react in some way if somebody has a no, to make them wrong, to punish them in some way for having said no? Are you really expecting them to do it just because you said that you want it? This is what we're looking at in requests versus demands. Are we honoring the other person's choice? Right? Do they get to choose freely for themselves based on whatever is right for them? Do they get to choose? Or are they going to be made wrong or punished or have love withheld if they say no? Looking again at this idea of, we had a key differentiation of power with versus power over. Right? So power over is when I'm going to say, oh, you're wrong, and I'm going to punish you for that. That is an energy of a demand. That is an energy of, I'm not requesting, I'm actually demanding this of you. And if you don't do it, you're going to pay the price. That is a life alienating way of being. It's not honoring of choice. It's not honoring of another person's sovereignty, of their autonomy, of their freedom, and of their choice. It's not something that is an embodiment of respect. Respect is when we make a request and we let the other person choose. Do they want to fulfill that request or not? If not, we can make another request. Would you be willing to help me understand why you said no to that request and why it doesn't work for you? Okay, so that's another request. Would you help me understand? It's a connecting request. And then again, do they have choice? What if they don't want to? I shouldn't have to explain anything to you, right? What if they don't want to let you know why they said no to your request? Then how do we respond? Can we respond with acceptance, or are we going to make them wrong? How dare you not even tell me that? Right? That would be a form of punishment. So looking at requests versus demands, a really key question to ask is, am I willing to hear no? If not, you're not actually making a request, you're making a demand. So I invite you to flip this. This is something that we do in our workshops often, and just notice. Think of a time when somebody made a request of you and you did not trust that it would be okay to say no. You sensed that if you said no, there would be some kind of repercussion, whether it was anger, punishment, withdrawal of love, whatever it was, you did not feel safe to say no. Right? So if you take a moment and remember one of those, again, scan your body. How does that feel in your body? Is there a lightness? Is there a heaviness? Is there expansion? Is there contraction? What emotions are present? Are you feeling joyful and grateful and open? Are you feeling frustrated, irritated, maybe angry? So notice the impact when somebody makes a demand on you, when you don't want to say yes. You do not want to say yes, but you don't feel like you have a choice. Get present to that. That's a universal human experience. That's not just you, right? Everybody has that feeling. It's harder for us to really hold this in presence and in awareness when we're doing it to another person, because at that point we're like, I just want the pillow, right? I'm going to use that example. I just want the pillow. Why don't you get me the pillow? Right? We're just in our own world. I just need this. I need this. And we're not necessarily present to the experience of the other person and how the way we're behaving is impacting them. But it is universal. People do not like demands. They don't. They generally don't respond well to demands. Now, there can be performance demands from a coaching perspective where it's like, I demand that you do your best, but you really feel the coach is there for you, right? They're wanting you to be your best. You've hired them to get you to be your best, and so they might be demanding your best, but you have already said, please demand my best. Please pull that out of me. So I just want to say that is a different thing. When somebody is demanding our best because we're in an agreement where we've already said that's what I want, is I want my best called out here. That could be in an employment situation as well. I want you to be your best in this particular position. It might be, as a parent, I want you to be the best mother. I want you to be the best father that you can be. Again, not really a demand when you're saying, I want to be the best mother I can be. Thank you for supporting me, even if it's uncomfortable sometimes, right? So this is much different. This isn't a case where you're like, no, my answer's no, and I don't feel safe to say no, right? Then there's a demand that's there. You always have choice, even if there's consequence, even if somebody's going to punish or withdraw love and affection or whatever, you do have the choice to say no. And I recognize that when there is a threat of punishment or a threat of loss of love, when those threats are there, it's really, really hard to assert an authentic no. We might choose to go yes with it, with something, because we value our safety, we value harmony, we value peace. So that's a dynamic that can happen. We're going a little bit outside of this key differentiation here about requests versus demands, but it's just so important to really look at how is it you are relating to your own request. Are you willing to hear no? How is it you're relating to the requests of others? Do you feel that you can really come from your truth when you're answering with a yes or a no? Notice if you don't feel like you can come from your truth, what's motivating that? What are the thoughts, the feelings, and needs that are motivating that? So, this key differentiation, requests versus demands. With requests, it's wonderful to use, would you be willing to, as part of the phrasing to make a request. You're asking, do you have willingness? And to seek to have acceptance for whatever the answer is. Again, if they say no and you're disappointed with that, it's reasonable to feel disappointed. You can continue by saying, would you help me understand why it doesn't work for you? It might be that when you ask that question, somebody says something and you're like, oh, well, I'm happy to address that. If we can address that, then could you say yes? And they're like, oh, yeah, of course, right? So just because they've said no initially doesn't mean it's the end. Sometimes you can make another request to ask for more information to see if you can find a win-win. And that can be a very fruitful conversation. But at the very foundation of requests versus demands, the question is, am I willing to hear no? If I'm not, I'm making a demand. Well, let's seek to make requests as much as possible. Let's seek to honor choice, honor respect as much as possible. That is this key differentiation.